Hello and welcome to My Stitch with me, everyone. Just before I start my stitching, I'd like you to look up at the ceiling because this little guy up there has been roaming around the ceiling for a couple of days now, and he's sort of positioned himself today very close to above my head, so I'm just a little bit concerned that he might get his little string going and come right down and land near me or on me. And I'm a little bit nervous that he might land on my head. So if you hear any screams in the middle of this video, you know why. But anyway, let's get on with the stitching. So today is Friday and it's another sunny day outside. And I thought I'd sit down and do a bit of stitching on this kit. The last time I worked on it was a couple of months ago, actually. So I haven't done anything since then. And there was a little problem with very short amount of fabric on the right side, but it's fine and it won't be a huge problem. I can go ahead and finish it. So this is by Merejka and it's on 16 count Zygarde. It's not a huge chart and it's very pretty. I love the blue colours and the greys and the purples. Really floats my boat, this kind of scene. The other side of this has also got a lovely chart, which I might get at some point. And inside here there's also two lovely charts that you can get from Merejka. You may have seen them before. They're really pretty. But today I'm going to focus on winter evening and try to get a few stitches in today while I can. The light is good. I'm facing the window. Well, the light is hitting me from behind, but I still have a lamp on and it's going pretty well. We're getting some really nice sunshine and it looks like it's going to, like the weather's going to turn, like it's not going to stay. Well, the reporters say that it's not going to stay nice like this for very long. We've had our heat wave now, and I think it lasted about a couple of weeks. Now they're saying that it's going to turn cold and grey, which is a little bit irritating because, yeah, I've been enjoying the brightness waking up in the mornings, although it has been disturbing my sleep because it wakes me up at 6 o'clock in the morning with the light coming in, and I do have dark curtains, but there's always some stream of glaring light coming in somewhere, and it wakes me up at 6 and I feel so tired because I have to struggle to get back to sleep. But I think I'm going to have to go and look for those things that you put over your eyes. I forget what they're like, little black masks, and they can sometimes work. But overall, it's just nice to have that sunshine, and you know, it just cheers up your day, doesn't it? Basically, it just kind of makes everything seem that little bit more pleasant when you don't have loads of rain and dark clouds. Although I do like winter for various reasons, but I'm not hugely fond of dark days starting at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah. Not really into that. So this is another building on the right side that I'm working on. The little yellow orange rectangle is a window apparently, so it was really nice to get to a little bit of window and not just all blues and blacks. I mean, as much as you like a certain colour, you don't want to do it the entire time, do you? You like a bit of variation. But I decided to continue working towards the right, keep going right, and then I don't have to be taking the fabric off the hoop all the time, you know, just to go here, there and everywhere. And I've been working a lot more on hoops lately. I found it difficult to get my Q-snaps comfortably inside the Lowry stand clamp. I get problems with that every so often, and I kind of like how the hoop slides into the Lowry stand. It slides in a lot better. It gets held a lot more firmly. I just prefer it. I can get the Lowry stand to work with the Q-snaps, but this is more of a preference getting the hoops and the Nurge hoops as well into the Lowry stand. So I bought an extra couple of hoops because I needed then to accommodate most of my whips into hoops because once I find something I like, I end up changing everything. That's just quite normal for me. So if I like, say, I like stitching on one thing on a hoop, I'll change everything to a hoop. Not necessarily these kind of hoops. I use the Nurge hoops as well. And then goodness knows, maybe in a few months' time, I'll be tired of the hoops for whatever reason. And I'll go and pick out all my Q-snaps again and put everything inside Q-snaps. And it's just, I don't know, it's just the way my brain works. It just does silly things like that. I think it's probably just to keep me entertained and to feel like something's actually changing and not just doing the same thing over and over again. Because when I see my project in a different hoop or a different Q-snap or something, it feels like, oh, this is new. Which it isn't really, but, you know, bluffing the brain a little bit. It looks a bit different, or it's been put into the hoop in a slightly different place. So yeah, I've even put my Riverwalk charm, my big one, into a large hoop, well, a 10-inch hoop. And that's easily going into the Lowry, so I don't think it's difficult to get the large project into a 10-inch hoop. And I just sort of, you know, roll all the edges around it and add my hair grips, and it holds it fine. Not a problem at all, nice and tight. Sorry, the cat's little white hairs in here are driving me a bit bonkers. And it seems to be kinder on the clamp. So that's kind of how I've been going, really. So I have been doing a bit of stitching, but I haven't been stitching all day, every day, or anything like that. It's been in, like, you know, spurts of stitching now and again. And I haven't really done a lot of crochet either, or a lot of knitting. That's two of the things which I really like to do, and I just never seem to get round to actually getting my projects out of the cupboard, sitting down and doing them. Oh, these hairs are driving me mad. I'm going to have to go and get some tweezers or something and pick them out. Honestly, talk about choosing a whitish haired cat. I could have got a black cat and then you wouldn't see the hairs, would you? But if I was stitching something like a snow scene, a black haired cat probably drives people mad, I could imagine. Yeah. Whichever way, something's going to be a bit of a pain with the hair. So I have been doing a bit more reading again. I go through phases where I do some good reading and then I don't do any reading. And lately I've actually gotten more into it a little bit, especially at night. Although nighttime can be worse because it tends to make me fall asleep. But anyway, I have picked up this book that my husband got me called... It's called A 3-Dog Problem. I can't remember the author's name, but I'll put a picture up on the screen. And it's actually like it's supposed to be a bit of a tongue-in-cheek, humorous book. And it sort of centres around Buckingham Palace. So you get all these different characters in the palace suddenly having dialogues, and sort of like the, you know, private secretary and the assistant private secretary and the master of the house and all these, like, you know, people. But so there's a lot of the story is something about, it's like a whodunit. So basically somebody gets killed and one of the queen's paintings goes missing, and all the staff that work in Buckingham Palace are all like talking to each other. Some might be suspicious of others, and they're talking about the gossip between them and all that sort of thing. So it's kind of fun like that, fun sort of story. And the Queen does sort of, obviously it's fiction, right? It's not a real thing. The Queen's sort of talking to different members of staff as well and trying to find out what's going on amongst her staff. And the staff are, you know, very wary of each other. So I've only got like a third in, so nothing's really happened yet. But it's sort of something very different to what I would normally pick up. It's not the kind of book that I would normally go for. And I don't really go for your average crime books either, but I'm going to have a look into them at some point as well, because I tend to find that unless the action gets going really quickly, I get bored very easily now. So I need something to like really draw me in quickly. Otherwise I just think, oh, you know, it's been like 3 chapters of describing a field or something, and you just go, oh, you know, is it ever going to get anywhere? Or nothing actually happens. So yeah, I'm getting more to that point where I need something to happen very soon. And the other one I picked up and purchased, but I haven't started reading, and I thought I might leave this one actually for Halloween, because that'd be a good time to actually read it. And it's called Never Whistle at Night, and it's It's like a dark fiction collection of stories. I'll put a picture up. And it's the back of the book that grabbed my attention. It's about something to do with stories about evil spirits casting spells and the things that indigenous people believe. And one of them apparently is that you should never whistle at night. It comes from some old tale or, some mythical belief. And I just thought, oh, I wonder why. What that's all about. It sounded interesting. So without even flicking through it or anything, I just read the back and I thought, yeah, that's the kind of book that gets my attention, something that sounds like it's totally different to anything else. So that looks like one that I may start reading sooner or later. And apart from that, there hasn't really been anything else that I've picked up. Getting all these threads into a tangle here. Hang on. I'm sitting on my armchair and it's got really wide arms, but things still sort of slide off them down to the ground. So I'm going to do a loop start now, I think, because that's so much easier. If there's one thing in the stitching world that has been one of the best things I've heard of, one of the most useful, it's this stitching loop, this starting loop that you do with the 2 strands, because I was always working with 2 strands and I found that it is such a, it's when you first look at it, you think, oh, well, that's cool. But then after you start actually doing it, you realize that once you do it, you just don't stop doing it, because it really makes such a difference to starting your threads. And I'm really pleased that I paid attention to that because I always start my 2 strands that way. But lately, since I've been going on to doing 1 strand, I don't know how you do a start like that with 1 strand. I just sort of pass it through a couple of threads at the back, or pass it through the front into the back and up again, and whatever way it is, I can't do a loop start with 1 strand. So if anybody does a loop start with 1 strand, let me know how you do that, because that would be interesting to know. So we've got a new colour going on here. At this point, it feels like it's going to take me 5 years to finish this chart. I really hope it doesn't take that long. Oh no, not another tangle. I could feel that one in my fingers. Come on. Come out. I'm usually very good at this, but sometimes it can be a bit of a nightmare. If you just pull a little bit inside those little loops, often it's not a proper knot, it's just that they've got tangled together. Yeah, that's coming out, I think. A little bit more. We interrupt this stitch with me with a knotted thread. Oh, come on. This is the thing that I don't miss about using 2 strands. Since I've started using the 1 strand, I've had far less knots and tangles, honestly. And apart from having less, I love parking. I've always loved parking threads, but it just ends up getting more and more difficult with the fur balls and with the tangles, catching all the dust, getting tangled together. I just gave up with it. I just thought, no, I can't keep it nice and neat, so I'm just going to finish it. Just not going to do it. And I've just found the 1 strand so much easier. But obviously with kits like this that say you have to use 2 strands, you have to use 2 strands. You're not going to use 1 strand in the whole thing, because it's just going to look weird. You have to do whatever the kit tells you to do. But that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. So it's only Friday. I've still got most of the weekend. I could do some stitching, but I also want to get back to, I started crocheting a blanket for not really a blanket, more of a throw for my living room area, and I just never got around to finishing it for the winter, so I'm hoping I can get it finished for this coming winter. But do we think that's going to actually happen? Maybe not. Maybe or maybe not. Who knows? All depends on the current mood. What's going on here? I can't seem to get a grip on this needle now. This is not working out great at the moment. Please do not tangle again. Sometimes when you just let the needle dangle a bit, it does help with the knotty knots, just a little bit. But you're probably familiar with all this if you do cross stitch kits, if you stitch with 2 strands like this, you're probably familiar with the little knots that it gets. Such time wasters, aren't they? So I think I'm going to do about 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes of this one. And tonight I might switch to, I forgot now because I had it in my head earlier today. Tonight I might stitch to the Cottage Walkway, which is the new one that I've started. That one's going fairly well. It's, again, taking a long time. When you start a chart and you want to build up a little bit of progress, it always takes ages because you've got to get the first, at least the first 5,000 stitches in before it actually looks like you've done anything decent. And I think I've only got like 2,000 stitches in, and they're all sort of cross-country stitches too, but I've managed to keep fairly neat and in one corner, top left corner, of course, so it does help. So it's not really a lot to show on that in terms of progress, but I do want to come back at the end of this month or beginning of June and show you whatever progress I've made on whatever I've done. Hopefully I can get to do that. But I thought I might take that one out again tonight because there's a lot of white and greys at the very top, which is the sky, and I can get a lot of that done whilst I'm watching TV. This thing keeps going out of focus. Must be my hand going at the top. I like to go and do those greyish stitches or the whole section of white whilst I'm sitting there watching something or listening to podcast or whatever, and it just goes a lot quicker when I'm listening to something. I don't think I can just sit there any longer and not do anything. I honestly don't think I can just sit there and stitch and not listen to something or have something on in the background. And I think it's because we've just got so used to being distracted all the time with so many things. Like, we might be cooking, but we're also checking our emails, but we're also, taking calls from our family, or we're also looking at timetables and what we've got to do next. And then we're also, we multitask in so many ways. It's difficult now to just sit down and do nothing. Even no stitching, just do nothing. I don't think I can sit down on a sofa and do nothing for 10 minutes, unless I purposely say, this is a meditation, 10 minutes or whatever, and then I'm focused on that quiet time being 10 minutes. But just in general, just sitting down and waiting, I feel like I'm in a waiting room, waiting to go and speak to someone, waiting to do something, waiting for the phone to ring, something to happen. It just feels weird because there's so much rushing around all the time. And sometimes when you do get a minute to yourself, you think, what have I actually missed? I've actually missed silence. It's funny that, because you actually do miss silence, even though it's difficult to go trying to get that silence because you're doing this, that, and the other. And I like to be productive because for many of us, I don't know about you, silence can also be a bit of an enemy, because when there's nothing going on to distract you, that's when your own thoughts kick in, and you know that those can go in any direction, right? And that's not always a good thing, because thoughts can go in a really bad direction and they'll change your mood, they'll change the atmosphere, they'll change your outlook. And I think when I'm feeling particularly not in a great mood is when I tried to make myself more busy, because obviously being more busy gives me less time to think, because thinking is the whole cause of suffering, really. It really is. So if you give yourself less time to think on the days where you're feeling not great, you've got through that day by keeping yourself distracted and busy. And the days when you actually feel like you're doing okay, that you're not having any sort of, forages into the past in your mind or into the future, or worries and all that stuff, when you don't have any of that going on, you feel like you're in a good mood, it's when you can actually sit down and take advantage of quiet time, because you're not trying to fill it with noise in your head. So I've tried to kind of be aware of that, and it really, really works well for me. It works well for me to be busy when I think it's a good time to be busy, and to be not busy when it's not a good time to be busy. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we're all different. But I think I work best when, so like sometimes at night I just go to bed and I spend 5 minutes just not thinking, trying not to think at all. And it is a kind of meditation, I guess, but it's just to have that time of being and not doing, just being. And it really does. I mean, I think our souls need it, definitely, because it's such a busy world. And I also sit and listen to a lot of some of these calming videos where people talk, and, their voice is kind of soothing and relaxing. It's a bit like what people say to me quite a lot on this channel, that my voice is soothing and relaxing. And I think, maybe I could have a go doing something like that, recording an audio video of myself talking about something that people would find nice and calming and soothing. But then I always think, I don't know what to say. But the funny thing is, once I get going, I found that I've actually said quite a lot. I've actually talked a lot. So I don't know why I think in my head that I don't know what to say, because obviously I do know what to say, because I'm saying it. And if I can manage to keep up talking through a whole stitching session, why couldn't I do it in a calming video? I think it's because I don't want to just kind of sit there and be going, oh, let's just count from 10 backwards and listen to your breathing. Take note of your chest rising. I think that for me is got kind of boring and very 90s, because I don't feel like I want to hear any more about my chest rising and falling. I'm just like, okay, not this one again. And pay attention to your feet and pay attention to your arms. I don't know. I've just heard it so many times. It's got to be something more interesting that's just as good to focus you into relaxation, or to put the focus into relaxing without being so, boring. So yeah, I'll have to think about that one. If I ever do a podcast or a video intended to calm people or soothe people, I'd have to think about the topic and what could be interesting to talk about. If you've got any ideas, let me know, because I'd love to know. This is going to get so tangled up again in a moment. See, this is not good calming talk, because I'm talking about eventual tragedies that are going to happen here in my stitching, and they're not very calming things to be saying, actually. Especially if that spider comes down and lands on my head, I will scream the walls down, because I don't mind spiders, honestly, as long as they don't come near me. There was a tiny, tiny little thing in the bathroom, and I managed to get it onto my finger because it was so tiny. I thought, like, seriously, what's it going to do? How many more times bigger than this thing am I? I'm like the giant Rockies. I'm like the size of the universe compared to this little thing. So I said, go on then, just hop onto my finger and I'll take you out to one of the flowers in my plant pots. So I got him on the finger and I put him out into the plants, and I was okay with that because he was the size of a grain of rice. But had he been any bigger than that, if I could see his legs clearly, or God forbid anything else, I don't think I'd have been as happy, to be honest. I'm going to go back up again with these stitches. See if I can get my thread to last. So he was okay because he was a tiny little thing, but this thing up here, honestly, He's not that tiny, not as tiny as you think. So if he landed on me, I wouldn't be that happy. No. And he probably wouldn't do anything. In fact, he's moved, and I don't know which way he's moved, but as long as I can keep him in the line of sight, he can stay there, not bothering me at all. See, I don't like to kill little creatures like that. I don't think it's right to do that. It's my personal opinion. Just because they've happened to come into your house, which is a normal thing, doesn't mean they have to die. I'd rather, if I can, my husband comes along with a little glass and a piece of paper. He just slips them into the glass, and he just, any bees or any wasps or anything that comes in, he just lets them out. And he's not afraid of doing that. But people that come, with a rolled up paper and just smack them straight away, it's like, why do you need to do that? The poor little thing has got a right to live too. I kind of look at things like that now when I see snails in the middle of the road, and I don't even like touching snails, to be honest, because they're so sticky and ugh. But if I see one in the middle of the pavement, if I see one in the middle of the street, I will pick it up and I will gently move it to one side. And because I know it's going to get crushed otherwise. So I'd rather be icky for a couple of seconds and try and peel it off the floor, which is the bit I don't like. Don't like peeling it off the ground, and put it in a bush. I'll actually do that, even though I don't like it. I don't think I could do that for anything that's a bit bigger. I could do that with a snail. What's also really interesting and equally terrifying is when you see bears coming into people's balconies and to their back doors. And, oh my God, how can you even? I don't know how you can live in a place where there's big bears coming onto your porch. And I would be terrified. I would be so terrified. And the only thing I had to endure when I was living in the Rock of Gibraltar was the monkeys. There was little apes everywhere. So I used to live in a block of apartments which was right beside the rock face, and the monkeys used to scale down the rock face all the time, and they would climb onto the roof of your apartment block, and they would climb down the drain pipes, and if you left a window open, that was it. Game over. They'd be inside your apartment, going through the fridge, going through the cupboards, looking for food. And you would come home and find literally you've been burgled by an ape. And not tiny ones either. Like, some of them can be quite huge. And it's so funny sometimes, because there's been times when you're sitting I remember taking my son to the park, and there's like blocks of flats surrounding this park, and seeing monkeys coming out of windows and climbing up and climbing down with like loaves of bread in their arms and, I don't know, tins of fruit. Like, I mean, what is the point of stealing a tin of fruit when you're a monkey? How are you going to open it? I'd be so impressed if they came out with a can opener as well as the tin of fruit. But no, they come out with a big tin of fruit under their arm, a loaf of bread under the other, which is fine because they can easily tear the package and they can get to the bread. But when they take the tin stuff, that really makes me laugh. I think they just don't really care. They just get what they can get. They'll just take what they can get their hands on. Oh, I've got another loop start coming up here. And so it's actually hilarious. And I remember there was a lady in the park one time, and she looked up and she said to me, "Oh my God, that's my neighbour's window. My neighbour's window. She's left her window open and the monkey's gone in." So she was calling her neighbour on the phone and telling her to come home quickly because the monkey was inside her house. I just didn't. Obviously, I couldn't laugh right there because it's not funny, is it? I mean, you would be worried that it was going to do some damage, but I couldn't stop. I was like, I just found it hilarious. Honestly, I went home And I was just laughing so much, just thinking that she had to ring her friend to tell her to come back because the monkey was in the house. I mean, that phone call would have been just hilarious just to listen to. So basically, it's at your own risk to leave your windows open when you live in a place which is occupied by Barbary apes. And they come and go at will. And they don't like dogs. And I remember taking my dog to the vet one time. And I was driving along in the car. And the monkey decided to just hop onto my windscreen, which, yeah, can be dangerous because they can obscure the view when you're driving along. And I had to drive from one end of the rock to the other end of the rock to get to the vets. And the dog wasn't particularly happy seeing the monkey staring at us upside down from the roof. And the monkey wasn't particularly happy seeing the dog inside the car. And, if you're not careful, if you get one of them that's particularly in a bad mood or is a bit vicious, he can completely rip off the side mirror from your car and it's gone. They're pretty strong. So I stopped the car for a bit just to see if it would jump off. And no, it decided to go with me the whole journey. So I was really nervous. But when I got to the actual vet, they don't want to be there because there's lots of animals in there. They don't know what they have to deal with. So it jumped off. It didn't really do anything. It just jumped off and went its merry way. But I'll tell you, I was very, very nervous because I was nervous for my dog. I was nervous about the monkey trying to get into the car. And it's just the fact of life there. It's one of those things. You're just going to get monkeys every so often jumping onto your car. They don't come near you, really. If you're walking down the street and there's one on the ground, it won't come near you. They do try to get into the stores and the shops as well. But it will, if you entice it with food, it will come to you, obviously, and it will snatch the food away from your hand. But you see, a lot of the tourists come and they think that they're just docile, they're not going to do anything. It's not true. They've bitten tourists and they've attacked tourists. And I would not let my child, within a metre of one of those things. I never did. And if my child was in his pram and in his buggy and he was eating something in his hand, I'd take it off him and put it in a bag and say, I'll give it back to you now, just as soon as we go around the corner or something, you'll get it in 5 minutes. Even if he cries, it's a lot safer than having that monkey run over to your buggy and start grappling with your child in the buggy to get whatever food or, snacks that he has in his hand. And I would race along with the buggy to get to a different area, different street, and then I'd give him back his snack. Because I've seen monkeys attacking people and stuff like that. And they don't do anything about it. They're not going to do anything about it, really. So I don't think it happens, or it's not a common thing. For the most part, and I don't want to give them a terrible reputation, for the most part, the monkeys are quite friendly. They'll just come and stand, sit beside you or whatever, and then they'll go. They don't do anything to you. But if you start being aggressive towards them or making them feel uncomfortable, then they will react, obviously. I just used to just swerve around them for years, never had a problem. Never really, always said just to be careful to people when they see them and just, keep a little bit of a wide berth and you're fine. Nothing's ever going to happen. But there's certain people that just like to, what can I say, monkey about. And yeah, they're the ones that are going to get the repercussions from that sort of thing. But that was the one time that I was actually a bit nervous, was when I was driving along and would just not get off my windscreen. And I was just, I could see enough to keep driving and I wasn't going fast. And it was a long stretch of road, so there wasn't any cars ahead of me. But I was nervous. I was more not nervous of crashing the car, but I was more nervous of that thing, smashing a window, putting its hand in or something. I don't know. Maybe I've seen too many horror films, but yeah. I don't know how I got into this subject now. What led me into talking about monkeys? I was talking about calming things, and now I'm talking about monkeys getting into your car and smashing the windows, which is not very soothing, is it? This is such a ridiculous conversation that I'm having with myself. I'll post a photo of these monkeys, or one of these monkeys if I have one, or if I can find one somewhere, because goodness knows I've got so many photos. I'd have to spend a whole day trying to find one particular one. But I remember taking some photos of the monkeys looking down over the roof of my building, and I think I was having a coffee on my balcony one day, and I looked up, sort of up and behind, and I could see a monkey face looking down at me. He was watching me drink my coffee and eat my breakfast. He's probably thinking, now, how do I climb down to there so I can steal her croissant? And I'm so glad that he didn't. I don't think they're not going to do it when you're there. They're more scared of you than you are of them. But if that had been on the table and I wasn't home, it's a possibility that it might come down and try to steal the thing from your table. But they never came into my place. I never had any evidence of that, because I always make sure that the windows were shut, and I mean, there's just no insurance you could pay to prevent these monkeys to claim back, because the monkeys have come and done anything. There's just nothing you can do. They'll just say to you, look, just keep your windows. And in a place that's so hot as well, you have to keep your windows shut the whole time, especially in the summer. Even when you're in a high-rise building, and more so when you're in a high-rise building, because they climb down from the rock face. They climb down into the main street as well. So it's really funny. You're walking along the main street, just like a busy high street, but a lot smaller in length, and you just see them sitting on benches and stuff, eating whatever they've managed to grab. They'll eat anything. The monkeys will eat anything, honestly. And some people kind of considered them vermin. But I never really thought that was a nice way to consider them. But I suppose since they just they're a bit like the rats, where they go to the trash bins and they try to find anything they can get. I could see that people view it that way. Just to me, never really seemed like a nice way to view them, because they're just a part of our world like anything else, I guess. And just because we don't like them, well, they probably don't like us, I'd say. In fact, I'm pretty sure they don't. So how long have we been? My goodness me. 40 minutes of stitching, and I think I might just try and get this section done before I go and do some housework, I think. There's always something to be done, at home. You can never get a break from that. As soon as you sit down, once the family come out, they'll leave things on the chairs, things on the table, things on the floor, things on the bed, things everywhere. Yeah, they need proper training sometimes, I think. But it never actually works. You just can't train them enough. I'm afraid it doesn't work permanently. And let me know what it is you're stitching on whilst you're listening, if you're still listening. Let me know what you're working on. To be honest, I think it would be nice to see somebody else who's working on this kit. Sometimes I do a search and I can find people who are working on the same thing that I'm working on. And it's really nice because you can get, you get to see like more than just the mock-up. Oh, I knew there was a knot behind there. You can get to see more than just the mock-up. You can get to see what the actual stitches look like, which you don't really see in a digitalized mock-up. And especially when someone's actually finished a piece. Because recently with some of my projects, I have been less than enthusiastic about picking them up. And so I was looking for ways to try and be more enthusiastic about picking them up. And so I go and look at pictures of versions that are already finished, that people have finished, maybe even framed. and I think, wow, it looks so fantastic, I want to go and pick it up again. That often works. It doesn't always though, because when you realise how much more you have to actually do to get to that point, sometimes it can have the opposite effect and be more deflating than inspiring. So it can work both ways. So I'm having a bit of a struggle, and I might as well, now that I've remembered, might as well talk about it now. I'm having a bit of a struggle with two of my charts because I've switched to using one strand, and I'm much more enjoying stitching with two strands. So I'm finding that I don't want to, at this moment in time, I don't want to work with two strands, unless it's this kit that I have to use, because obviously it's a 2-strand kit. So, but I'm sort of avoiding it, let's say. So they've been put away, and I'm probably not going to get back to them until I'm in that mood where I'm like okay with the 2-strand work again on the Hades. But then I think maybe I could go and do just the 1-strand full cross, because we've seen that with the high count, or is it a small count when you talk about like 25, 28. So with the 25 count, switching from the 2 strands tent to the 1/1 full cross hasn't been a problem so far with a couple of the projects that I've been working on. But I'm not sure I like it for these two particular projects. So one of which I'm talking about is Tree of Life. And I've got a certain texture with that I think is going to be slightly off if I change it now. And something about the design, I'm not sure why, but something about the design tells me I should just be consistent with that one. I think it's the way the design is. I just have that gut feeling that I shouldn't change it to the 1/1. So it's been put away until I'm in the mood for it, which I haven't been, obviously. And then we've got the Sad Fairy, which I keep wanting to get to, but never seem to get to. I did work on her the other day, to be fair, and I did punch in a few stitches. But I never seem to be able to do enough. And again, oh no, it's not the 2 strands with that one, because I did start doing full crosses. I know what it is. It's because a lot of it now that's left is the brunches and the white and the greys and the blues. So it's really, really boring. And there isn't much else that's interesting to actually stitch. I mean, I love the chart and I love the picture, but for actual stitching purposes, the only thing that's coming up for the rest of it is some part of her wing, but mostly it's going to be background of thorns and branches. So a lot of the greys are going to come in, which I find really difficult to do with the white colours, the grey colours, stuff like that. So I haven't been really digging it for ages. But I'm not UFOing those. Those are not being UFO'd because I've done too much on them. So they're just going to go into the cupboard until I'm in the mood. I don't really care. I mean, even if it takes me 10 years, so what? 10 years. I will get back to them at some point. So I might as well work on what I'm in the mood for and what I'm enjoying, because if I force myself to go back to things that I'm not enjoying, I know what's going to happen. I'm just going to not do it. I'm just going to not do any stitching, and then you won't hear from me again. So I'm just going to leave them until I get into the mood for them. Anyway, that's that. So Happy Village, which was lost, hasn't reappeared, but that's okay. I've come to terms with that. I don't think I will restart it, because I don't think it's a good idea to restart something just because I'd restart it if I want to, but I don't think I really want to at this point in time. There's also one that I did start last year, I think it was. Like anything way beyond last year, completely forget. They're not coming back. If I can remember any, I've probably forgotten most of them. But there is one which was called Fairy Whispers, and I really liked it. And I started doing that on 22 count, 1/1 full cross. Go me, because I thought normally I would start in 10, but I started that on the 1/1 full cross with 1 strand. I really enjoyed it. And I don't know what happened. I think I just fell out of love with the 1/1 at that time, and I put it away. So I thought it was going to be a UFO, but I still have it. And I was thinking the other day, do you know what? I'd like to do this one again, maybe at some point in the future, either as a restart or just continuation of what I've done so far. Because I had a bit of an I'm okay with Hardanger, and then I'm not okay with Hardanger. So, it really just depends on the mood I'm in, that sort of thing. I'm going to go with this last strand now, I think, and then we can call it quits today. So yeah, basically I've put that into I've got a spreadsheet where I write all these notes down, otherwise I forget. So that could be a future restart or a continuation of. So I've kept that one. I'm glad I didn't, chuck that one out. And yeah, I really liked it. I like the colours on it, but I don't think I've got the threads organised for that one any longer, because what happens is if I stop doing something, I take all the threads and repurpose them for other things. So everything's in a bit of a muddle thread-wise. I've got threads here, threads there, threads everywhere. So it means I'd have to rekit the whole thing. And I was thinking I might get somebody, and some of you might have done it yourself. There's a lady in Cross and Crafts who does the kitting up. I think she's in the UK, I'm not sure. But I'm not sure if she only does, what's the name of that thread? CXC. I think she only kits up CXC. And I think she only does it on the floss drops. What I would like is, I'm okay with it on the floss drops actually, or on the card, because at least then if I want to bobbinate it myself, I can do that as I go along. I don't have to have it bobbinated. But I would like somebody to be able to kit my thing up with DMC. So if I was to restart something again, not necessarily even just the Fairy Whispers, if I was to restart any chart again, I can hear the ambulance coming. I thought it was a bit of a long time before the ambulance turned up. I totally forgot what I was saying now. Oh yeah. So if I kit up anything again, I don't mind paying that little bit extra to have it done, because I don't enjoy the kitting up process. So if you know the answer, if somebody can do a DMC, I know that would be a bit costlier, I know that. Would do a DMC kit up, and if not on the bobbins, just on the thread cards or whatever, or the floss drops, I think I might at some point. And I'm saying I think I might, I'm not saying I definitely will. Re-kit up Fairy Whispers. First of all, I'll have a look in my stash and see if there's anything there, because I always like to think, if I've actually got them, why am I going to buy them again? I don't really have a master set. I've got a box that a double-sided box, and it's got bobbins, and then I've got another little box that's got tons of skeins, which I haven't really sorted into anything, because every time I open it, I just groan and I put it away again when I see how many skeins are in it. And it's really annoying, because every time I have to go and look for a skein, I have to go through the whole box to find one number, which drives me nuts. So sometimes I just go and buy it so that I don't have to go through the box, which is ridiculous. See, all my terrible stitching secrets are coming out now. I'm not even going to read the comments to this video, because they're just going to be horrendous. Be kind, ladies, be kind. We're all a little bit quirky, right? So I go and buy the one skein, because the box is just so daunting. And maybe there's more spiders in there, and that, you never know. There's spiders in this place already. So I have the double-sided box, and it's got lots of stuff in it. And they are sort of in numerical order, not really, because sometimes I take a few bobbins out and I don't, go and refill them or anything. And I was thinking about doing maybe a master set to some point, but to me it sounded somewhat time-consuming, very, very time-consuming to get everything onto bobbins and everything into boxes and in exact number order. Sounds like it would take me the better part of a week, which to me is taking away lots of my stitching time. So I just think, oh, I'm not going to do that today. So it's a pity that none of you live nearby, because I would so love you to come over and sort out my bobbins and my master set. I will have it one day, don't worry, I will have it one day, but it's not going to happen right now. But hey, never mind, my thread is just going to get into another tangle, you see. This is why I've enjoyed going to the one strand with my full coverage. And I'm really appreciating that at the moment. It's made my stitching so much more enjoyable, honestly. I used to complain about one strand and say that it was whimsy and flimsy and you didn't feel like you were holding on to anything. And I kind of changed my mind now. But one thing I have learned in this 5 years of stitching is that mind can be changed, and you never know where you're going next. So maybe next week or next month or next year, I will be like, no, I cannot stitch with one strand ever. I have to use 2 strands. I think some of you know what I mean. I think some of you do actually know what I mean. Oh, I'm getting croaky now because my voice is going, my nose is getting blocked. I think it's to do with the pressure in the weather. Does that ever happen to you? The weather pressure completely changes the back of your nose and your throat. I mean, I can literally feel it in my sinuses when the weather changes. I can, when it turns funny and there's low pressure, I can feel certain pain coming along in my sinuses. It's really so weird. I just find that really weird. Anyway, the weather's gone a little bit funny, so it could be that. Or maybe I just need a drink. I'll need to have to get a drink. So I'm coming to the end of this now anyway. So it's a good place to stop because, yeah, you're probably thinking, if you're still around, you're probably thinking, my God, this woman can talk. But I'm just here to keep you company, and you're here to keep me company, and I just thank you very much. I don't know what to say. It's great. Sometimes we just need to get things off our chest. And, you know, because a lot of the time, if I'm talking like this to my husband, well, he wouldn't sit here for an hour listening to this. He'd have been gone. My husband would have been gone 45 minutes ago, after nodding repeatedly, say a couple of things, and then he'd disappear. Not because he hates me, he certainly doesn't hate me, but because he just can't do the whole stitching talk for very long. And he definitely can't do switching subjects. So if you talk about one topic and then 2 minutes later you're onto another topic and you're onto another topic, that would drive him mad. It's either stick to your lane, to your topic, or don't keep veering into different things. And I can veer quite a bit. So it's nice to actually sit down, even though it's being recorded and you're not sort of in the room. It's nice to be able to just keep on going with the flow. You know, whatever blah blah comes out, just comes out. Anyway, I think I've tired myself out now, to be honest. I think I really have. So I might either need to lie down before I get into my reading, or I'm going to need, I don't know what, a pick-me-up. And I'm trying not to eat sugary things because I'm trying to get a bit healthier. So I've been avoiding sugary things as much as possible. Just eating, a little treat now and again, which is fine. Everything in balance. Fortunately, I do like healthy food, so I don't have a problem. But yeah, I think that's me done for now. I think I'm all stitched out, as they say. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me. It's been really, really nice to be able to sit here today and chat with you. It's always nice to come on and have a chat. So I hope that you've enjoyed it and you've enjoyed some of the conversation. How many stitches have I got left here? Not too many. Well, actually, there is a few little stitches to go. But I think instead of lying down and wrecking my night's sleep, which I've been doing all too often lately, I think I might take a little walk because, okay, the sun isn't as great as it was before. But I often find that going for a little walk around the park, which is very close by. One thing I love about Edinburgh is there is a lot of green parks in such a big city. And you don't have to walk very far until you get to a nice big park. And just a nice walk around the park, it wakes me up, makes me feel a bit more refreshed. Just when I think I'm slumping and I've got that mid-afternoon to late afternoon slump, when I normally think, oh, just drink coffee and see if it gives me a boost. It's actually worse, isn't it, to drink the coffee, because the coffee just gives you that boost and then you feel even more slumpy. I'm not a big coffee drinker, really. So I find that going for a walk actually really does help a lot. And sometimes it's just nice to do that for half an hour, 40 minutes. Yeah, so I think I might do that once I get to the end of this little bit here. I might as well finish the thread that I need to finish here, rather than just put it away with a piece of thread hanging. And then when I come to pick it up again, I've got to go looking at the chart to see, where is this thread hanging from? What stitch was this one? What colour was it? Where is it on the chart? And I have to say, Merejka charts, although I've only just got this one, I think, have got very, very lovely clear charting. It's really, really good. You can see the stitches nicely. And what I do like about it is you've got one side, which is just what the stitches are, and the other side is the exact same, but with the back stitch. When they put the back stitch on the chart itself, so you don't have two separate charts. You've got the one chart with the crosses and the back stitch together. Sometimes it's really hard to see what the stitches are underneath the back stitch lines. That's a problem in some of the kits that I've seen. And it's a pity that you can't look at that. You can't see that really before you buy a kit, whether they've got a separate chart for the back stitch. But I really, really appreciate that now, because the back stitch doesn't get in the way of seeing the actual stitches. Because many times I've had to squint and look and say, is that the symbol I think it is, just peeking out from behind the line? I think the Dimensions kit, if I remember, had everything on the one sheet. I think it does. Actually, the Gracious Era that I'm working on is like that. It has the back stitch and the stitches all on one sheet, and I find that a little bit frustrating. So why can't you just give us 2 copies? Is it really going to be that difficult just to give us the 2 copies, one with the stitches, one without, one with the stitches and the back stitch? It makes life so much easier for us. So yeah, I'm done stitching for now. So let me know what you think, guys, and thank you so much for joining me. It's been such a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun talking to you. And as I said, I hope to come back in a few days even, or the beginning of June, to give you an update on the progress that I have made on the things that I have stitched on. So until then, God bless, take care, my friends, and I'll see you soon.